there's just so much to see here, and it really forces you to slow down. And I know I've said that about other parks as well, like Crawford Lake, but this is a different slow. There's no, like I would say to anybody here, if they're looking like they're going to be walking around at a fast pace, slow down, you got nowhere to go, right? Yeah. There's no plan, just take it in. I mean, you can see the butterflies and the dragonflies in a sort of a pasture area. They got the lakeside blinds where you can watch, you know, some of the waterfowl. There's just so much to see here, and it'd be a great time to just spend a day, have a picnic, bring your family out, and just kind of enjoy being outside.
One of the unique features of Mountsberg is that it has a raptor center. This is very unique because they used to rescue raptors, and while they're no longer taking them in, as you'll see shortly, they do have several species that you can see that have been injured, and different things have happened to them in the wild. So it's a really unique feature of this park. And one other thing is, unlike Crawford Lake, where you get on a boardwalk and do a very designed walk around, Mountsberg is just wide open, and there's a lot of different features that are laid out and separated. So this park is lovely just to hang out, wander around, and go to different things gradually as to how you feel.
Mountsberg is the park that I probably spent the most time of my youth sort of growing up at. It was the place to come, at least for my dad and I. And I mean, the Raptor Center was a big part of that. I grew up just loving learning about animals. The funny thing that I usually say to the staff here is that I used to know a lot of the birds by name. I felt like I kind of grew up with some of them. There used to be an old great horned owl here that only had one eye. And I mean, I kind of grew up with that owl. It was really kind of a special place. The neat thing about the park that I always loved, though, like you were saying, is that it's a great place to sort of wander and not necessarily have a direction, is that there's little different micro environments that people can explore. Right. So as an example, when you drive in, some people might notice it's a small little pond, but if you have a chance to kind of stand on the shore of it and just watch, it's pristine. It's like a really pure, clean wetland environment for lots of things going on. Earlier I took some shots of, there was a big old snapping turtle that was kind of wading through the water and hunting. I got some frogs just sort of sitting on the shoreline, and of all things, it's loaded with leeches, which I've never actually really seen on a mud flat. On the shore, and they're just kind of squirming their way through things. But that's like the sign of a really healthy little microcosm. And it looks just plain and green and flat, but when you take the time to stop and take a look at what's going on in there, it's just teeming with life. There's a lot going on underneath. There's a lot. What I love is when you drive in, it's just covered in, I don't know what they are, but they look like miniature lily pads, and so you can't see the water. It's just a stunning green color before you even get into the park. Yeah. And I mean, if people want to, if they want more of the guided thing, you know, in the spring they've got Mapletown, which is, as far as I know, like really known all over the province. I mean, it's a hot spot for the springtime. For maple syrup. For maple syrup, they have a big pancake breakfast over the course of a weekend. My family calls it a Canadian picnic, because only in Canada would you sit out in picnic tables with snow and ice still on the ground, freezing your butt off and eating pancakes outside. But it's a real draw. People come from as far as Toronto and maybe even farther to come and experience that. And they do have trails. If you want to go walk trails, you can do that. Or the Raptor Center, you can come and experience the birds in their enclosure, where they do sort of a guided educational piece with the birds, teach people about how important they are to our environment and what little things can make them can endanger their safety. Mm-hmm. And what can we do to sort of help and spot environments that might be a hazard to them or promote them, like the osprey nests that they have, mm-hmm. The boxes. Yep.
Welcome to Halton's Great Outdoors. We're here at Mountsberg Conservation Area. With me today is Sandra Davey, Animal Program Lead of Mountsberg. Welcome, Sandra. Thanks for having us.
Oh, thank you for joining us today.
What we're hoping to do is get a really good taste of Mountsberg today while we're here and learn a little bit more about the background of the park. How did this place come to be?
Yeah,
what can people see when they visit? And oftentimes what we find is people visit parks and they miss some key elements because they don't know they're here. So hoping you can show us what those missed elements are that people miss. So,
sure. Well, I'll start with a little bit of history about the park. Yeah. This area was originally settled by the Cameron family.
When you say this area, sorry to stop you, but how big of an area are we talking?
So the park in itself is over 1,000 acres. But the Cameron family was sort of broken up into a couple of different areas around here. So this part that we're standing on right now, as well as some property across the lake, the McCrae family, which you might be familiar with from John McCrae and the famous poem. They actually lived across the reservoir as well, so lots of history in this area. But for our main area that we're on right now, it was the Cameron family, and they were originally from Scotland. So they came over from Scotland, and Duncan Cameron is the one who had the deed for this part of the property that we're on right now. So 1850s is really when that all got started. They built the historic stone house that you will walk by on your visit here. They had this as a farmstead. In fact, our old barn was actually originally the Cameron barn. It didn't originally sit where it is today. It was actually on the other side of the railway tracks. And then when the railway company came in and built the rail line, the Camerons actually had to dismantle their barn and move it to this side of the track so that they could access it. So there are a few historical elements that you'll see around the park. And a few things that maybe aren't as obvious. We've got a couple really old apple trees over by the Cameron house that would have been planted by the Cameron family. And the Camerons actually lived here into the, I believe it was late 1950s, early 1960s. And the property was sold to the King family. They had it for a couple of years, and then Conservation Halton actually purchased the property in 1964. And what a lot of people who visit Mountsberg today don't realize is what the original purpose of this property was, and it was all about flood control. So this property was purchased in 1964 to establish our 500-acre reservoir and our dam, our flood control structure, and it actually is controlling the outflow of the 12-mile creek and then into tributaries of the 16-mile creek, and protecting areas of Halton like Burlington from flood control. So it's you'll see the water level. Some people often ask us why the water level fluctuates so much. It's because it's not actually a natural lake, it is a flood control system, and that's why Mountsberg was first developed back in 1964. So there's a few things that Mountsberg is really well known for. Our Raptor Center is one of our big attractions. We get a lot of people coming to visit and learn about our birds and get experiences with our birds. Our farmyard is another big one. We have a number of animals here. This would have been a working farm for the Cameron family, so we do have some of those animals still. We've got some sheep and some goats. We've got some chickens, turkeys, rabbits, and then a fan favorite are our Percheron horses. And our Percheron horses do work for us, so they pull our wagons for some of our programs as well. They're Percheron horses, so they're a type of draft horse. Yeah. They're one of the larger work breeds.
The big ones with the long hair on their
they don't have the really big long feathers like something like a Belgian does, but you'll get a chance to see some of our Percheron horses today and learn about them. And then another big thing that we're really well known for, which got a little cut short this year, is our Maple Syrup Festival. That usually runs end of February till beginning of April, and we see a lot of people come through for that great Canadian tradition of enjoying maple syrup.
That's a huge hit.
We're really, I think of all the Conservation Halton parks, we're really known as a very family-friendly park. We definitely see that in our visitors. We get a lot of families with young kids coming to see the birds, coming to see the animals. We have a few stroller-friendly paths that are easy for families to explore, and lots of space for the kids to just get outside and enjoy.
So unlike Crawford Lake, then this is more of a visit the park at your leisure, wander wherever you would like to. Sounds like a nice experience. And you said specifically younger families as well, this is a good place to bring kids, because not everything's friendly for really young kids. Okay, good to know. Now, if I had accessibility issues, is this a good park as well?
It is. So this trail right here where we're situated with the Raptor Center, we actually received a grant a few years ago to improve the accessibility of this trail. So very stroller, very wheelchair friendly. The path behind me, as I said, fairly stroller and wheelchair friendly as well. And our buildings we try and make as accessible as possible as well. So definitely friendly in that type of situation, yes.